an awful, awful person to me. Maybe to other people, she was really nice. And I know she's been, I never married her, but I know after we broke up, she got married to the guy she was seeing while she was still living with me. But then I think they got divorced, and then she moved to another state, and then she married that guy. So I think she'd been married like 4 times, and I would have been like number five. Anyway, all that being said, we broke up and we moved. We went our separate ways, and I had nowhere to go at that point. I was still, um, no, I had already stopped working full time. I was writing, but I had gotten a nice chunk of money. I did a couple of ghostwriting projects. So my parents, basically, I'm like, 40 years old at that point, or probably around 40. And, I had to move somewhere. I had kids, and I had to move. And my parents said, well, come stay here. The problem is there are 3 bedrooms in their house. And obviously my parents get a bedroom. And then I had 3 kids. So my 2 daughters got a room. My son got a room. And I had nowhere to go. And I was like, well, I can't sleep on the couch because my dad wakes up at weird hours and everything else. So you know what? We'll figure something out. So I had this screen, it's kind of like like you see in basically like on all movies where the woman puts up the screen and she gets behind it and she gets unchanged and stuff, whatever they call those screens. Anyway, I had one of those for some reason. So I put that up the dining room. So obviously the dining room connects to the living room in my parents, and then there's a side door which goes to the kitchen. So I put this screen up. I also had a very big, very heavy television. So I put the television right there as well. And then I put a bed. There was no dining room table. My parents took the table out and everything. But I had like my bed and all of my crap. And the dining room is not very big. It basically will hold like a big table and a couple of, you know, uh, things, whatever, for plates and like the china cabinet kind of thing. So they moved all of that out, and I put in a bed, and I had like boxes of my stuff, my clothes. Like obviously I have no closet, so I just have stuff kind of piled up everywhere in the dining room. So of course at night, if anybody's watching television, it's literally right there. And if I have my television on, it's dueling television. So I hardly ever watch television. I used to read a lot, or I would just cry. I really wanted to get out of there, but I couldn't. I couldn't afford it, and I couldn't with my kids and everything. So, long story short, although it's already too long, um, while I love my parents, being like in my 40s and having to move back home because I'd failed at yet another relationship. I'd already been divorced twice, and then I was with that person for like 6 years. And so it was awful. It was also awful because my dad would wake up in the morning at like 2 a.m. So my dad would go to bed at like 6 or 7 at night, which he still does. And even though he had been retired for like 10 years at that point or more, and my dad's not old, my dad retired at 50. So he would get up at like 2 in the morning, and he would make a cup of coffee, and he would make a pot of coffee, he would put the TV on, he would watch, the baseball news, whatever. But then he got into this habit of getting up and peeking in, and if I was still up, or if I even looked like I was, even if my eyes were closed, he would go, Arnold. That's what he calls me, Arnold. I have no idea why. That's just, since I was a little kid, he's called me Arnold, even though that's not my name at all. He'd say, Arnold, you want a fried egg sandwich? And I would say, what are you, no, get out of my fucking room. I would get so mad. And every day, every morning, what, a fried egg fucking sandwich? No, fucking stop waking me up early, because I had to get up early, still take my son to high school every morning. And we had moved, but he had stayed in the same high school. So I had to get up at like 5 in the morning still, even though technically I was a full-time author at that point, and I had to drive him to school. So my dad would wake me up at like 3, 4 in the morning and piss me off, and we would argue. I remember the one time, and I might have already told this story, I don't know. And if I did, that's too bad, you're going to hear it again. I remember he knocked on the door and he said, oh, you want a cheese sandwich or something? And I was just like, would you run out of eggs? And he just said, yeah. And like, it just made me laugh, and I went back to sleep for like an hour. But anyway, so that was that. And then I saved up my money. My parents didn't charge me rent or anything like that, although obviously I had to take care of my kids and food and whatnot for them. But it was a humbling experience. It was like my first, probably a good 6 months that I was there until or maybe more, until I met my current wife. And she wasn't my wife at first because, we had a date and do all that stuff first. But that's when I pretty much met Shelly. And I moved here to Jacksonville, Florida, and did all that. So it's one of those things I always look back and remember. Kind of keeps me